Have you ever entered a room and felt an immediate, heavy shift in the air? Have you ever looked into the eyes of a stray animal and felt an intelligence staring back that wasn't quite animalistic? For thousands of years, across vast deserts and ancient cities, millions of people have believed that we are not the only masters of this planet. They believe that just past the edge of our vision, a second civilization exists, one with its own laws, its own wars, and its own religions. They aren't ghosts and they aren't demons. They are something else entirely. What if the shadows in your peripheral vision aren't a trick of the light? What if the hidden ones are sitting in the very room where you are watching this video, watching you back? Today, we go beyond the myths to explore the reality of a race older than humanity. Welcome to the unseen world. Here, we investigate the mysteries that science hasn't yet explained and the folklore that persists through the ages. Today, we are diving deep into the legend of the Djinn. Forget what you've seen in cartoons or movies. The true history of these beings is far more complex, far more ancient, and, for some, far more terrifying. To understand the Djinn, we must look back to a time before the first cities were built. In the vast, sweeping sands of the Arabian Peninsula, long before the arrival of modern religions, nomadic tribes spoke of entities that inhabited the wilderness. According to these ancient traditions, the universe was created in three parts. While humans were formed from the earth and celestial beings were formed from light, these hidden ones were said to be crafted from a scorching, ethereal energy, a searing wind that leaves no trace. The word itself, Djinn, comes from an ancient root meaning to hide or to conceal. They are, by definition, the beings that remain out of sight. In historical and cultural contexts, they aren't seen as purely evil or purely good. Much like humans, they are believed to possess free will. In folklore, there are Djinn who are scholars, Djinn who are kings, and Djinn who are simply trying to live their lives in the spaces we don't use. This balance makes them unique in the world of the supernatural. They aren't bound to hurt us, but they aren't bound to help us either. If the Djinn are real, where exactly do they live? Folklore suggests they occupy a parallel dimension, a world that overlaps with our own. They see us, but we rarely see them. However, there are certain thin places where the two worlds meet. These are often described as desolate locations, deep caves, abandoned ruins, or even the dark corners of our own homes. Tradition classifies these beings into several distinct groups, each with its own level of power. The most common are the Djinn, who often appear in the form of animals, usually black dogs or serpents. Then there are the Ifrit, described in ancient stories as enormous, powerful entities with a mastery over the elements. They are often depicted as the warriors or the builders of the unseen world, but perhaps the most mysterious are the Marid. In many stories, these are the oldest and most rebellious of the Djinn. They are said to inhabit the deep oceans and the vast open skies. Unlike the friendly genies of modern media, a Marid is a force of nature. They don't grant wishes out of kindness. If they interact with humans at all, it is usually because they have been compelled to do so, or because a human has accidentally trespassed onto their territory. This brings up an important aspect of the legend: the rules of interaction. In many cultures, it is believed that Djinn can be offended by simple human actions. Pouring boiling water down a drain without a word of warning or throwing a stone into a dark well might accidentally hurt an invisible inhabitant. For this reason, many people in the Middle East and North Africa still utter a brief word of protection or a polite "excuse me" before entering dark or unused spaces. Beyond the hierarchy of power, there is one detail that has fascinated scholars and terrified listeners for generations: the concept of the Qareen. According to certain spiritual traditions, every human being is born with a twin from the unseen world. This companion is said to stay with you from your first breath to your last. They know your secrets, your fears, and your deepest desires. Some say that when people experience a sudden gut feeling or an unexplained voice of intuition, it is their unseen companion communicating with them. Another fascinating detail is their supposed ability to shapeshift. While they are made of energy, it is said they can condense themselves into physical forms. They might appear as a traveler on a lonely road, a cat with unusually bright eyes, or even someone you know. There are accounts from desert travelers who claim to have spoken to friends for hours, only to find out later that their friends were hundreds of miles away at the time. Even in our age of satellites and smartphones, the belief in the Djinn remains incredibly strong. In cities like Muscat or Cairo, it isn't uncommon to hear modern accounts of strange occurrences in certain buildings. Some construction projects have even been halted because workers refused to enter sites they believed were inhabited by the hidden ones. In the West, we see these stories reflected in reports of shadow people or glitches in the matrix. While science looks for psychological or neurological explanations, millions of people find the answer in these ancient traditions. The Djinn have moved from the campfire stories of the desert into the digital age, appearing in internet forums and true paranormal accounts shared across the globe. Are the Djinn a literal race of beings living in the shadows? Or are they a profound metaphor for the parts of our world we don't yet understand? There is no scientific evidence to prove their existence, but for those who have experienced the unexplained, a lack of evidence doesn't mean a lack of reality. Whether they are creatures of energy or creations of the human mind, they remind us to walk through the world with a little more respect for the unknown. The next time you feel a sudden chill in an empty room, ask yourself, are you truly alone? Or is something or someone sharing that space with you?